Week 6 of the NFL features some exciting football games that affected the survivor pool landscape across the country. We'll talk about that. We'll review the results of our own survivor pool, and we will tell you the experts' pick for the survivor pool for Week 7. All that coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Kurtzman.
And I'm Eric Lee. We are the Fantasy Football Consultants. Gary, we are into Week 7 of the NFL after a really wild and crazy Week 6. It's going to be fun because this is when survivor pools, I think, start to get both challenging and fun because we have more information, but the games start to get tougher as less teams are on the board to pick.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. And games that you just were in the NFL and you think you know some teams, Eric, and then you got games like the Green Bay Packers going to San Francisco, which was thoroughly depleted, and you think that's a gimme. Oh, baby, was that game anything but.
More so than I can remember in previous years. There hasn't been these gimmies, even though you've had some big spreads. Let's do a quick debrief on our own survivor pool. If you're a new viewer, understand we started from 45 viewers out there who participated in our FFC official survivor pool. We're down to 4, and I got to give kudos to these 4. Corey and Caroline McGrath. We learned a mother-son duo. The family dinners have to have a little bit of a rivalry. Both of them picked the same pick this past week. Minnesota was a little close early before Minnesota pulled away.
10-10 second quarter, but then Minnesota decided to play like Minnesota can.
Elizabeth Interos benefit from Green Bay's big comeback and is still alive, as is Joshua Rinker, who went out on a limb and picked my Seattle Seahawks. I'm so proud of him, and he was rewarded with not only a win, but an easy win in London.
And a gutsy call. Nice going.
Yeah.
Nice going.
So let's take a look now at Week 7 for all of those that are still in your survivor pool or just trying to figure out what your pick would be if you're still in it. What are the games?
What are the games? So we've got Atlanta. Most of these are home games, as you would imagine. Atlanta, 6-point favorite of the New York Giants. Atlanta being home. Kansas City, same 6-point favorite over Cincinnati. Again, KC at home. Indy, 6.5 favorites over Buffalo, who is now down to Derek Anderson, their third-string quarterback. More on that in a moment. Chargers, 6.5 over Tennessee. All those so far have been home games. The one exception, and the biggest spread of this week, the Los Angeles Rams are now 11-point favorites at San Francisco, where the Vegas odds makers obviously weren't watching the last game against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with eliminating that game. And the reason I'm going to eliminate that game is I, like most people, have already used the Rams in their survivor pick. But what if you haven't, Gary? If you haven't, you have my permission to pick the Rams. Why? They are by far the safest pick this week. They will win, and they don't have a better game than this until Week 16 and Week 17 when they host the Niners instead of being at the Niners, and they play Arizona. But here's the thing, the one thing to think about. If you happen to like one of the other games that we're talking about, Week 10, they're the best pick of the week of Week 10 when they host Seattle. So, again, I'm not picking the Rams. If I liked another game, I might save them again until Week 10. But you have my permission to pick them this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Just bear in mind one thing. The Rams are probably going to win. But, look, I told you guys last week, C.J. Beathard is a lot better quarterback than people gave him credit for. This is the second week in a row where he's thrown for over 350 yards, multiple touchdowns, and one or fewer INTs. Folks, I'm telling you, and not only that, but the Rams' pass defense is suddenly a lot weaker, or at least a little bit weaker than we thought it was. Akeem Talib is out. Marcus Peters does not look like Marcus Peters. So if there is a vulnerability, I think that's it for that game.
Cooper Kupp may not be playing in this game, so Cooper one of their bigger weapons.
That's right. That's right. Now, let's see. The game that I'm not going to pick, but I do think has got real potential here, Chargers -6 versus your Tennessee Titans. Your same Tennessee Titans that got sacked, not once, not twice, but 11 times last week against Baltimore, and they had a microphone in the locker room, and this is what I heard the lineman say for the Tennessee Titans.
That job is not that easy.
Watch your language, bud. We're already here.
Oh, God. An NFL record, folks. The NFL's been around for a long time. NFL record 11 sacks. Tennessee's vulnerable. Mariota does not look even close to the Mariota of 2 years ago. Corey Davis is really out on a limb because he's the only player worth his salt on that Tennessee Titan defense right now. Deion Lewis is vastly outgaining Derrick Henry, and that says more about Derrick Henry than it does about Deion Lewis. Bottom line is you can really pick on the Titans right now. And the Chargers, winners of 3 straight, are really firing on all cylinders. The game's in London, but make no mistake about it, if there's going to be a team that's going to get run right off the pond, it's going to be the Tennessee Titans.
All right, so let me put you on the spot here. You already picked the Chargers this year, so you can't pick them again.
I can't pick them.
But if the Chargers were on the board for you, would you be picking them this week?
You know, I would be picking them this week. I'd be picking them this week as confidently as my next pick that I'll be picking, because I haven't picked them yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the next game I'm going to talk about is the Colts and Buffalo. And Gary, I've said this many times in Survivor, it's more about the team you're picking against than the team you're picking for. So
Absolutely.
Why not pick against the team who is 1-5 and who it doesn't have their starter, right? Buffalo Bills.
No.
It's not Buffalo. Buffalo has won 2 games. I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts. Yet it's the Colts who don't have T.Y. Hilton, and yet who are 6.5-point favorites, and the line has actually gone up as press time in some places to 7.5-point favorites.
So crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
No, thank you. I have no interest in putting my Survivor life on the 1-5 Indianapolis Colts. You may be saying, but Eric, they're playing Buffalo. They have terrible quarterback play. And you hear that Josh Allen's not going to play. And yes, Nate Peterman. Everybody's afraid of Nate Peterman, who again made 2 bad decisions late in the game. One was a deflection, but there was a bad decision thrown across his body, and the other interception was terrible. But we don't have to worry about Nate Peterman. They're going to start Derek Anderson. Is Derek Anderson the star QB? No, but he's a veteran over 14 years, and they're going to keep the play calling simple. And they just need to not turn it over because the Buffalo Bills have one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think the problem the Colts are going to have is they have simply failed this year at running the ball. They're the 30th among the rush in rushing. So no one has had more pass attempts than Andrew Luck. And that's just news to the Buffalo Bills, who have the 3rd most sacks. They are going to create opportunities, so the Bills do not have to on offense play a lot. What do you think, Gary? Do you feel confident, or do you have the concerns that I have about the Colts as a survivor?
Yeah, I got some concerns, not as many as you have. I mean, the reality is Derek Anderson was out of the NFL until last week. So, you know, he's not the kind of guy that you would expect to do well at all. He's the kind of guy you expected to. I mean, the Indianapolis defense is the top pick on the waiver wire this week for a reason, and that reason is Derek Anderson. The one problem I see with this Indianapolis game is they'd have a pretty awful rush defense, and that's the one area of strength for the offense, and is what they're going to feed all day long is Sean McCoy. And Indianapolis can't stop it.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think they're number one because they think it's Nate Peterman's going to start. And it's that same Indianapolis defense over the last 3 weeks that have allowed 37 points, 38 points, and 42 points to their opponents. So, look, if you want to pick the Colts, they have no future value. So it's a great pick if they win. I just don't have the confidence they will.
Yeah, absolutely. So finally, now here's my pick. What I'm going for the week is your Kansas City Chiefs -6 over Cincy. Well, KC is one of the best teams in the NFL. They lost last week, their first loss of the season, now 5-1, by 3 points to also one of the best teams in the NFL, and that team happened to be at home. Now, what does that mean for this game here? What that means is, look, folks, Kansas City's going to be at home. They're 2-0 and utterly dominant. They are tied with the NFL's best offense, tied with New Orleans, by the way. So, what about their defense? You say, yeah, Kansas City defense is not very good. They're incredibly exciting, but they're not very good. Right? So what does that mean? Well, what that means is when you play teams like Cincinnati, Cincinnati has the 23rd most yards in the NFL this year. That's not the team that's going to take advantage of Kansas City's defense. There are a lot of teams that can. New England Patriots, for example, not Cincinnati. Kansas City is going to jump on Cincinnati early, just like they've jumped on every other team early except for the Patriots. And then, Cincinnati, look, 23rd most yards, and they don't have the firepower to catch back up. I mean, that, folks, is the bottom line. Plus, KC is utterly dominant at home. They haven't lost at home in over 2 years. I just don't see any reason at all why this game shouldn't be a rout. I'm pretty darn comfortable going with Kansas City.
I'm not comfortable. I would not have picked this game. I'm surprised that you have such little confidence in the Cincinnati offense. For a lot of the year, they haven't had Joe Mixon. He's back and healthy and playing well.
Tyler Bernard did great in those 2 games when Mixon was out.
Tyler Boyd.
Their running game was fine.
And Bernard may be coming back this week, so they'll finally get both of the guys together. The 1-2 punch of A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd has been really effective this year. I think this is going to be a shootout, but you see it as a rout.
I guess I keep going back to Cincinnati literally as the 23rd best offense. If it's a shootout, even in a shootout, I would go with the NFL's best offense over the NFL's 23rd best offense. I'm pretty confident in KC.
All right, so I'm going to give you my pick, and you can take shots at that like I took a shot at yours.
Or not.
My pick is going to be the Atlanta Falcons, who are playing at home against the New York Giants. Well, Gary, here's what I would... what you can easily criticize this pick is you're putting your hopes on a 2-4 team in last place at that. But let me be very clear: the
2-4 team without a kicker, by the way.
The Atlanta Falcons are going to be could have been so easily 5-1. They have played an incredibly difficult schedule. They were up by 2 points against the Super Bowl champions and lost in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yep.
They lost to the New Orleans Saints, who's only lost 1 game this year, in overtime, and then they lost to the Bengals that we were just talking about, who you think have no chance to win, only by a point. So, and who do they play? They play the New York Giants, who are nowhere near as good as any of the opponents that the Falcons have played. So, look, I'm going to keep things simple here. I have a lot of faith that the Falcons at home are going to win. And I know they don't have Devontae Freeman, but I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, the New York Giants are an easy team to pick against. Atlanta's good, New York Giants is not. Can't disagree with that pick one bit, Eric.
All right. So let's take a peek at one of my favorite segments.
Mail call. Gather around, everyone.
Well, let's see what's in the mail. What's this? A letter for me.
Real quick, Tanner Scherer says, you guys put out some quality advice. Thank you, Tanner. He must have looked at the right video as opposed to the video where we screwed up. I am still alive in my survivor pool, and I'm going to go with the Packers. As I mentioned in our previous video, I'm going to keep the Rams and Vikings for later in the season. He started off with 30 people in his pool, and now they're down to 3.
And he can use the survivor pool winnings on that heart attack medicine that the Packers gave against the Niners.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere.
So, Tanner, it is really nice to have you as a viewer as well as have everybody else who is new and all of our people who've been with us from the beginning of the year. We love to hear from you. Gary, we also want to hear from our experts panel real quick. On our experts panel, let's put it up. If you're new, not only do we have Gary and I making picks, so Coco picks the Chiefs. The rest of our experts, the whiz kid Michael, he likes the Chargers. And Las Vegas, who always picks the highest spread of the week, but because they already picked the Rams, are going with the Colts. So that wraps up our experts poll. We want to remind the viewers again that every week, in addition to doing the Survivor Pool show, we do a specific DFS show, so you don't want to miss that. But the best way so you don't miss any of our content, go ahead and hit the red subscriber button and then the bell icon to be notified for all our future videos, because we got some very fun things planned later in the year. And until next time, we'll see you then.
See you then.